So I have a couple of things that I wanted to discuss with you guys real quick today. The first thing is something I never really thought that I was going to discuss. This has been really big news the last 2 days. But in seeing so many people talk about it, and I was kind of forming my own opinion in my head, I felt it was maybe worthy for me to at least research and see if it felt like something I should discuss. So what I'm talking about are the quotes that Michael Pachter, everyone's favorite video game pundit, investment fellow in the, I can't say in the industry because he's actually not in the video game industry. He works for an investment firm from what I understand. And he happens to just represent a lot of video game companies, which is where his video game knowledge comes from. Everyone knows the guy. He's a super crazy, polarizing figure. I've had a love-hate relationship with him over the years. Overall, I appreciate that he exists because he has such outspoken and well-thought-out opinions. I obviously don't agree with him. I would say 50-50. But I also don't hate him as much as a lot of people do as well. Even as a huge Nintendo fan, what I see is that Nintendo fans really get down on him because he is sometimes very overly harsh and overly critical of Nintendo, and I get wanting to defend your favorite company. Nintendo's my favorite company, but I have to say that sometimes his criticisms are warranted and accurate. A lot of times they are unwarranted and a little bit overly critical, so that's kind of the weird thing there. Anyway, the point is, I appreciate his opinion when he says it. Even if I hate it and it makes me mad at him, I appreciate that it starts a talking point, it gets me thinking, and he's somebody who's sharing well-thought-out statements about the video game industry and a lot of times about Nintendo. So what happened over the last 2 days was I started seeing all these YouTube videos and all of these articles popping up about everyone raging at Michael Pachter for a quote he said about Satoru Iwata, who we all know passed about a year and a half ago. And he just used, all I saw was the one quotation phrasing of the late but not so great Satoru Iwata. And everyone was like really, really upset about this, and understandably so. I mean, those words initially sting really badly. That is a very classless and untasteful thing to say about somebody who's otherwise very revered in his respective industry, had an amazing career, was extremely successful. What am I doing? Successful and profitable, made his company profitable, and for the most part, the fans of his company love him, and everyone thought he was great. Even his peers in his competition, really respected and admired who he was and what he did for the industry. So to hear and read that someone was saying that, I was like, wow, what a very strange thing for Pachter to say, because typically, even when he's critical of a company or even a person, he's still usually very respectful. And to say something so initially disrespectful about somebody who's now dead was very, very shocking and uncomfortable. I certainly did not like it. And so everyone and their mom was talking about it. I saw a lot of videos and stuff about it. And I definitely appreciated seeing all of these Nintendo fans and gamers come to Nintendo and Iwata support and say, hey, this is a horrible thing. What is this guy thinking? People started to get really angry at Pachter. He's trash. He's garbage. He's the scum of the earth. He's the most disrespectful person ever. And so with all of these very harsh opinions being lobbied against him, I was like, man, this is really crazy, and I wish he didn't say that. I think it's really mean, but I wonder if it's as bad as it sounded. So I took it upon myself to go and actually research. I just finished watching his video where he answers a couple of questions, his new show, The Pachter Factor, and the first question of the show he answered where he stated this quote. Because I was like, if I'm going to talk about this, I want to at least hear him say it. I want to understand the context and the connotation. Why did he say it? How did he say it? How was it delivered? Was he trying to be extremely spiteful and mean and negative about it? Or was it kind of a casual thing or even like a jokey thing? I was not sure. So I wanted to research and hear about it and hear it before I talk about it. I didn't just want to talk about words I read on a page, because as we all know, that can be so easily spun into something else. So having now heard it and watched the video and listened to what he said, I think that I'm going to agree with the fact that people have said it's classless and tasteless and disrespectful. I do agree with that. Having watched it and heard him say it the way he said it when he was trying to reference some of Iwata's quotes in the past about how to handle the mobile and the free-to-play stuff and the free-to-start quoting, I was like, yeah, that probably wasn't the best way to phrase what he was saying. However, I do want to at least add that I don't think he was actually purposefully trying to be disrespectful of a now past legend within the video game industry. He did phrase it fairly casually within the sentence in the conversation he was having. He was, trying to transition from one point to another. He wanted to reference his quotes. And I just feel like he said it in a way that I don't think he thought was disrespectful. It felt so just blah the way it came out of his mouth. He kind of was like this and this and that. And then, there's that one time that the late and not so great Satoru Iwata said free to start. And that was literally how he said it. So it didn't really have the biting sting I expected based on everyone's super toxic reaction to it and the fact that everyone wanted to burn Michael Pachter at the stake. But there is no doubt it was the wrong thing to say. It makes no sense. I don't even understand how somebody so knowledgeable about the video game industry and all these big companies, which includes Nintendo, he's been following and talking about Nintendo and gaming for, I don't know, 5, 6, 8 years on the internet. And it's like he's seen all of the good things that Nintendo and Iwata have done. Yes, sandwiched between a lot of bad stuff, but he's seen the good. So how someone who is, I know I'm going to get hate for this, but someone who is as smart as Michael Pachter, because you guys, he is an extremely intelligent man, that is unquestionable, how someone that smart could feel that way. I mean, if he genuinely feels that Iwata was not a great man and a great industry video game leader, would just blow my mind. So it was really interesting. I have to say, I know people ran to the defense of Nintendo and Iwata, and I love that. I appreciate that passion. But it's just so easy for people to jump on something toxically and just create this controversy. And it's like, it was a stupid thing that somebody said on a video on YouTube about a video game person. Like, that's really what it was. It was not the right thing to say. He definitely should apologize for it, but I don't know if it, was so bad that it required everyone to just get so up in arms. I mean, it definitely has, I've definitely lost some respect for Pachter. Hopefully he kind of remedies this and at least addresses it sometime soon and says, maybe clarifies what he meant, why he said it, and how he truly feels. Hopefully being able to state that he does understand that Iwata was considered a great leader in the gaming industry and that the fans loved him, his company and peers loved him, and his competition even respected and loved him. So how the hell are you going to say something stupid like that? Come on, man, get your head out of your ass. The other thing I wanted to talk about real quick is something that I normally would not talk about. You guys don't hear me talk about things like this very often, but I think that this is warranted. So I'm a couple of weeks late to this news, but I want to talk about No Man's Sky really quickly. No Man's Sky is a game that when it was initially shown, I was like, what's the big deal? Looks totally average. Okay, I guess I'll see how that plays out. Over the course of the next couple of years, it started to actually look really cool, and I got very excited. And I was like, okay, maybe there's something to this. I can appreciate the space kind of discovery nature of this game. It looks like really chill and relaxed, and I like the atmosphere it seems to be creating. That's cool. Maybe I'll look into it. And I got more and more excited for it. Then by the time the game was launching, I was like, well, I don't really care anymore. I'll see how everyone else reacts to it. And then we all know what happened from there. A huge shitstorm, major fallout. The game didn't deliver on so many different promises. Even the days leading up to the release, Sean Murray and the rest of the team at Hello Games were making promises days before the game came out that they knew weren't true. And that is a problem. I think that I kind of hate the fact that there's been a controversy around this game because I'm just sick of controversy, even building off of my whole kind of story about people getting angry with the Michael Pachter quote. It's like I'm over controversy, man. Like, we have to point out the bad things that happen and try to work and fight against them and have a voice against them, absolutely. But it just sucks when it happens. I'm not like happy that this game comes out and it makes everyone mad and it's this big industry standard of how to not fuck things up. Like, I hate seeing that stuff happen. So because of this and because of this fallout from this game, a lot of things are happening. Hello Games has been mum's the word. Shuhei Yoshida had a couple of quotes about the marketing and how it was kind of dropped and not handled the right way for the game. Sean Murray, the leader of the company, has left the States. No one knows where he is. He's completely left Twitter altogether. There's been no talk about what the updates are going to be. All these things. And the other thing that's happening is a UK law firm or some entity from the UK, maybe their advertising board, is actually suing Hello Games and I think maybe Sony for false advertising and not delivering on the promises of the game and yada, yada, yada. So all these, the basic concept of you guys promised this, the game didn't deliver this, you lied in how you promoted and advertised the game, so we're coming after you for money, you're going to have to defend yourself. And I think that there's some good to that and some bad. I appreciate that there is someone fighting against this because this stuff happens a lot. But again, it just builds off the idea of there being another controversy, and I freaking am sick of controversy, dating all the way back to Gamergate a couple of years ago. Ever since then, man, it's like all these controversies in the gaming industry. I just get sick whenever I see something else crappy happening. Even if I care about it, like the Iwata thing, I'm still just like, ugh, can we just stop with the shitty news? Anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. What I wanted to quickly kind of bring up, my little theory or my addition to this conversation about Hello Games getting sued for false advertising on No Man's Sky, is although I hate to see it, the reason I think there's actually something good coming from this is that it could set a new standard going forward. Over the last few years, there's been a large amount of complaints, and a lot of people talking, myself included, I've talked about this before, about how many times we see video game companies in the industry present to us and promise to us a certain kind of game in a certain kind of way with a certain kind of look and certain kind of gameplay, and a lot of times lately it hasn't been delivering. Beyond No Man's Sky, the other main games that I can think of are Watch Dogs and Destiny. Those are really, really big ones that didn't really necessarily live up to a lot of people's hype and expectations. There's another one. I think The Division was one. And oh man, there's actually another really big one that I'm completely brain farting. And you guys can tell me all sorts of examples down below that I'm forgetting. But there's been a lot of this where games are presented to be a certain way and it's not that way once it finally comes out. And it's been a problem. Assassin's Creed, that was a really big one. Not the Rogue Nation or whatever just came out. Or no, Syndicate just came out. The one before that. Or was it Syndicate that was the bad one? I can't even remember. I don't follow Assassin's Creed. But what I'm getting at still sound. I think you guys are following what I'm trying to say is all these promises about what games are supposed to be, and then they're not necessarily delivering. We're seeing a lot of games presented in all CG cutscene, no gameplay, and people are getting excited about this, but it's like, well, why? I mean, what did you see other than CG that's not someone controlling the game? How do you know it's going to be worth that? The gaming industry has more and more been selling us on, I can't necessarily say lies exactly, I don't want to use that harsh of a term, but they're selling us off of misleading information, misleading footage, and not true statements and promises. And that is a problem. What's happening with Hello Games and No Man's Sky, to me, could very potentially set a precedent so that other companies can look at what's happening and be like, whoa, those guys, we've been doing this for a while now, but those guys just got busted for it. They're in trouble for it. And maybe Hello Games loses a lawsuit, and all of a sudden, those guys just had to pay millions of dollars to settle that lawsuit. Wow. Maybe we should kind of rethink some of our practices, our advertising, how we first reveal and show off this game. It could have been Ubisoft with Watch Dogs or The Division, or it could have been Activision with Destiny, which, side story, I freaking love Destiny. I think Destiny is great, but yes, a lot of people were justifiably disappointed with that game. And so, those companies and their games, those could have been the first guys caught, quote unquote, by this, and all of a sudden they were having to deal with like a monetary fallout from maybe not promoting a game the right way and kind of sort of lying and being untruthful about it. And now that this is happening with Hello Games, I want it to work out for the best, both for Hello Games and for the industry and us, the gamers, so that we're not lied to, but hopefully this company isn't completely screwed and they have an opportunity to fix the situation, fix the game, and make future games better and, in the future. I hope that happens. But I really think that we could be seeing the rest of the industry saying, oh my God, okay, wow. I think that our time is up. We no longer can get away with this fun little game we've been playing where we can sort of lie to people and put this flashy CG cutscene out and then sell 5 million copies in the first month and then realize people hated the game after the fact. They can't really necessarily do that. I'm really hoping to see a change in principle for the industry, advertising, how games are revealed, promoted, and ultimately made and released. It's like, just be truthful. Do what Nintendo does. Nintendo's the gold standard in this respect. They never show off CG stuff. When they show you something, it's the freaking gameplay that you'll be playing when the game releases and you have a controller in your hand. Everything we've seen from Zelda, which has been like the most amazing thing everyone's seen in the last year. I mean, even non-Nintendo fans are like, that's incredible. All we've seen is gameplay. People playing the freaking game with a controller in their hand, doing everything in real time. Nothing is CG, nothing is pre-rendered, nothing's running on a computer. It's been running on a Wii U, and people have been playing it with a gamepad. That's how you show off a game properly. And they didn't show us 4 minutes of the gameplay. They showed us like 5 hours. I mean, it's insane how much they did. And That's the thing is, as much as Nintendo fucks up other things, when they do things right, they literally are the gold standard. They set the bar so high, it's almost unfair because most other companies can't keep up when a company does something in this way. Luckily, as a Nintendo fan, it's usually Nintendo doing that, and that makes me happy that my favorite company can be that company. And there are definitely other companies that do a lot of times do that as well. Rockstar has never really, relied on the CG cutscene stuff, and I appreciate that as well. And there's some others. But anyway, long story short, I think that if everything works out the right way with this Hello Games thing, I think that it's going to hopefully set the industry, the bad practices of the industry standard back a few paces, and everyone can realize, hey, let's start being truthful moving forward. Let's make sure we're not the next company busted by this, and all of a sudden we're the second company that has to pay $5 or $10 million to settle this problem because we lied to our gamers about the game we were making. It's not cool. We're too smart to put up with it. We're going to bust you. We're going to call you out. We're going to be angry with you. And in this respect, someone's going after someone for it, and that's a pretty big deal. So 2 stories about 2 kind of controversial topics today, which was pretty interesting. I don't normally talk about the kind of thing that's happening with Hello Games, but it was actually really fun to talk about my kind of 2 cents to add to that conversation about how it could become a good thing. The Iwata thing is interesting. I think it's going to blow over in a couple of days. Again, having gone back and actually watched it before I talked about it with you guys, I think that even though it definitely was disrespectful and tasteless, I don't think he meant it that way. I think it was just perceived the wrong way. He made a boneheaded mistake, honestly, is what it seems like. I don't want to justify or defend Pachter because he does make me angry just as often as I like hearing him talk about video games. And I think that he deserves to get called out on this, but it's just been a little bit more toxic than I think it's deserved, because if you watch it and don't just read the information in a sentence online, you kind of get an understanding of well, he delivered it in a way that didn't sound as mean as it maybe came off. So anyway, hopefully he just comes out and apologizes and explains himself in a day or two, and everyone can just move past it. And yeah, that's what's going on, man. Tell me what you guys think about these couple of stories, what you think about the Pachter Iwata thing, what do you think about Hello Games and the UK law firm or whoever coming after them and suing them for false advertising. Very crazy deal. I think it could set a pretty big industry standard going forward, so it'll be interesting to see. So that's it. Thanks for tuning in. As always, guys, this is Rob of Rule to Review, and I'll catch you guys next time on another video.